a face carved into the dark, a flicker of fire grinning through jagged teeth. Every October, millions of jack-o'-lanterns appear on porches across America, smiling, leering, or grimacing, their hollow eyes lit by flame. They seem playful now, cheerful symbols of Halloween. But look closer, and you'll find something older, smoldering beneath the orange skin. Because this tradition is not just about pumpkins, it is about spirits, trickery, and fire rituals that reach back over 2,000 years. Before we uncover that ancient secret, let's begin with the story that gave the jack-o'-lantern its name, a tale whispered in Ireland for centuries, the legend of Stingy Jack. Jack was a drunk, a wanderer, and above all, a trickster. One night, in a tale first recorded in Irish oral folklore during the 18th century, Jack invited the devil himself to drink with him. When the bill came, Jack convinced the devil to transform into a silver coin to pay. But instead of spending it, Jack slipped the coin into his pocket, alongside a crucifix. The devil was trapped. Jack only released him after extracting a promise. The devil could never claim his soul. Years later, Jack died, but heaven refused him. His life was too wicked. Hell, bound by the devil's oath, turned him away as well. Condemned to wander the earth forever, Jack begged for a light to guide him. The devil tossed him a single ember from the flames of hell. Jack hollowed out a turnip, placed the coal inside, and carried it through the darkness. From then on, he became Jack of the Lantern, or Jack-o'-lantern. Irish villagers soon carved their own lanterns from turnips or rutabagas, placing them in windows or along roadsides to ward off Jack's wandering spirit, and any others that might be abroad on Halloween night. It's a chilling story, but here's the problem. As powerful as it is, Stingy Jack is not the whole truth. In fact, the written record of Jack with a lantern predates this folktale. The term appears in 1663 in the writings of the English antiquarian John Aubrey, describing strange ghostly lights, will-o'-the-wisps, that lured travellers into bogs and marshes. These wandering flames were said to be the souls of the restless dead. People gave them a name, Jack-o'-lantern. So the legend of Stingy Jack gave a face to something people already feared. But the roots of the Jack-o'-lantern go far deeper. Because long before Jack tricked the devil, long before English writers described ghost lights in the night, Celtic druids were carving faces into lanterns and lighting fires to guard against the dead. And that tradition is at least 2,000 years old. To find the true roots of the Jack-o'-lantern, we must travel back 2 millennia to the windswept hills of ancient Ireland. Here, the Celtic peoples celebrated a festival called Samhain, held on the night of October 31st, the very threshold between harvest and winter. For the Celts, this was no ordinary night. It was the night when the veil between the living and the dead grew thin, and the spirits of the other world could cross into ours. Archaeologists and historians trace Samhain back to at least the Iron Age, around 2,000 years ago. Bonfires were lit on hilltops, not only to honor the gods, but to protect villages from wandering spirits. People carried embers home in hollowed-out turnips or rutabagas, carved with crude faces to frighten away malevolent forces. These glowing guardians were the earliest jack-o'-lanterns, though they would not bear that name for centuries. For the Celts, fire was sacred. It purified, it protected, and it bridged the human world with the divine. When the spirits walked on Samhain night, people believed they could ward them off with firelight, especially fire kept inside a carved image. In this way, the first lanterns were both offerings and weapons. Offerings to the gods, weapons against the restless dead. Centuries later, long after Christianity spread through Ireland, the festival of Samhain blended into All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, the origins of Halloween. Yet the old fire rituals persisted. Families still hollowed vegetables into lanterns, still set them at doorways or along paths. The ancient belief was too deeply rooted to die. Meanwhile, across the Irish Sea, people in England spoke of another strange light, a phenomenon known as the will-o'-the-wisp. These mysterious flames flickered over bogs and marshes, leading travelers astray. Some naturalists today believe they were caused by gases like phosphine or methane, igniting in the air, but for centuries people explained them as the work of spirits. They said the ghost lights were the souls of the damned, luring the living into danger. In 1663, the English antiquarian John Aubrey recorded one of the first written mentions of the term Jack with a lantern. He wasn't talking about carved vegetables, but these ghostly lights themselves, the wandering flames of the dead. The name stuck, blending with Irish traditions of carved turnip lanterns. Slowly, the two streams, ghost lights and fire faces, merged into one. So by the 17th century, the jack-o'-lantern was already a hybrid of beliefs. Part death omen, part protective charm, part fragment of a fire ritual stretching back 2,000 years. But the story doesn't end in Europe, because in the 19th century, a new land would give the jack-o'-lantern its most famous form, the glowing orange pumpkin. The jack-o'-lantern might have been born in Celtic ritual and christened in English bogs, but its most famous transformation happened far from Europe. To understand how a turnip became a pumpkin, we have to look at one of the darkest chapters of Irish history, the Great Famine. Between 1845 and 1852, potato crops across Ireland were devastated by blight. Over 1 million people died of hunger and disease, and nearly 2 million fled their homeland in search of survival. Many of them crossed the Atlantic to the United States, carrying little more than memory, tradition, and story. Among those traditions was the practice of carving turnip lanterns on Halloween. But America offered something new. In the fields of New England and the Midwest, Irish immigrants found a native fruit, the pumpkin. Unlike the small, tough turnips of the old country, pumpkins were enormous, plentiful, and, most importantly, easy to carve. What had once been a crude face hacked into a knobby root could now become a wide, glowing mask with teeth, eyes, and expressions of pure terror. The pumpkin became the perfect vessel for the jack-o'-lantern. By the mid-19th century, Irish immigrants were carving pumpkins each Halloween, merging their old customs with their new landscape. In 1866, an American newspaper in New Hampshire mentioned Halloween pumpkin carving as a growing tradition, marking one of the first recorded links between pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns in the US. Within decades, it had spread across the country. The meaning of the jack-o'-lantern also shifted. In Ireland, it was a ward against Stingy Jack, will-o'-the-wisps, and wandering souls. In America, it became a broader Halloween symbol, carved not only to scare away spirits, but also to scare and delight neighbours. Communities embraced it as decoration, entertainment, and a touch of eerie theatre. By the late 19th century, illustrated magazines like Harper's Weekly were printing images of grinning pumpkin faces at Halloween parties. And yet, beneath the laughter, the old purpose still glowed. Each pumpkin was a guardian against the dark, a flickering fire carried forward from the Celts of 2,000 years ago. Even in the New World, the jack-o'-lantern was still a mask of protection, a firelight against the unknown. By the early 20th century, the pumpkin jack-o'-lantern had become the official emblem of Halloween. Children went door to door by its glow. Families carved them together. Towns held pumpkin carving contests. And in 1931, the holiday itself gained its most iconic American monster, Universal's Frankenstein, whose square head and sunken eyes uncannily echoed the carved faces glowing on porches. The jack-o'-lantern had crossed an ocean, changed its form, and found a new home. But at its heart, it still held the same meaning it always had: light against death, fire against fear. When you look into the grin of a jack-o'-lantern, you are not just seeing a decoration. You are staring at a ritual that has survived for 2,000 years. A ritual of fire, fear, and protection. Why the face? In Celtic belief, the head was the seat of the soul. Warriors took the heads of their enemies as trophies, believing the spirit was trapped inside. By carving crude faces into turnips and later pumpkins, people created symbolic heads, false guardians to confuse, scare, or repel wandering spirits. Each hollowed gourd was not just a lantern, but a mask, a sentinel at the threshold between worlds. And why the fire? Across cultures, flame is the ultimate ward. The Celts lit bonfires during Samhain to drive away the dead. The Greeks lit torches to honor Hecate, goddess of ghosts. The Chinese floated lanterns during the Ghost Festival to guide spirits home. The jack-o'-lantern is part of this universal pattern, a portable fire shrine, a way of pushing back the darkness with light. Even the eerie wandering lights, the will-o'-the-wisps that Englishmen feared in marshes, tie back to this idea. Scientists may explain them as natural gases, but folklore saw them as the restless dead, doomed to flicker and fade. To carry your own flame was to resist them, to keep your path safe. In America, as Halloween became a night of mischief and masquerade, the jack-o'-lantern changed too. No longer just a grim protector, it became a performer. Grins widened, teeth sharpened, eyes grew comical or monstrous. The pumpkin face became a mirror of the human imagination. Yet beneath every carved smile still burns the old ember of fear, the reminder that Halloween is the night when the dead walk. By the 20th century, the jack-o'-lantern was everywhere. In postcards, children's books, and Hollywood films, it stood as the emblem of Halloween itself. Even today, in the 21st century, its fire is ritual. Families carve together, children light candles, and the glowing face watches over the night. Most never realize they are repeating a ceremony that began with Celtic druids, carried through famine and migration, and reborn in a new land. And so the jack-o'-lantern endures, because it is more than a pumpkin. It is a memory of wandering spirits, of fires on Celtic hillsides, of ghost lights over English bogs, of Irish exiles carving faces into strange American fruit. 2,000 years of fear, ritual and story, all flickering behind a crooked smile. The next time you see one glowing on a doorstep, remember, this is no simple decoration. It is a mask of fire against the darkness, a reminder that the dead walk close on Halloween night. And it is a symbol that will burn as long as we fear the dark.